We are back for another episode of the Construction Mentor Podcast. My name is Ike. I am your host. As always, you can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube at the Construction Mentor. You can catch this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, and probably some other major platforms as well, but those are the main ones. What are we here to do? We're here to promote the construction industry, let people know that the doors are open for them to live an affluent lifestyle, not necessarily through college. Maybe you can go through college as well if you want to go into engineering or construction management or things like that. But not enough people are chasing careers in the trades, and we need more content to walk people through exactly how to do that. We've had a few episodes before on how to specifically become an electrician and how to get certifications in different trades. We had really good feedback, and it was very clear to me that people need help finding those opportunities, where to go, where to get educated, what options are there at different schools or different educational platforms. So today we have Brent McCartney from CTEX up in Connecticut. Brent, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. So CTEX, what is CTEX? What does it stand for, and what's your mission?
So CTEX is the Connecticut Technical Education and Career Center. And in Connecticut, all of the technical high schools fall under this organization. So it's a state organization that runs the technical high schools in Connecticut. And our mission is to prepare students to enter the trades, or at least make an educated decision if they're going to go into post-secondary education.
Now, when you say technical schools, are you talking about VOTEX?
So that word means a lot of different things throughout our nation. So I guess I'll break down what it means to us, right? So in Connecticut, there's 20 locations that have technical high school that fall under our district. And 2 of them are adult aviation. So they're kind of a little different. Those are just adults after they've graduated going in there to become aviation technicians. We have 1 technical education center where there's no academic programming there. It's just the trades. And then we have 17 diploma granting high schools where our students will get their academics and their technical education.
Okay. So with the aviation, that's very interesting. So that's not usually a trade that I talk about because we talk about construction. But what I will say, I have a close friend and neighbor in my neighborhood, and his family's in aviation software. And he said that the average age of an aviation technician is 61.
I think that's common in a lot of industries, but yeah, we are currently in conversation with Pratt & Whitney and Sikorsky to figure out how we can train more. So right now it's a daytime program. I wouldn't be surprised if we were running double shifts there for a little bit, because you're right, there's a huge need.
Yeah, and it's something that I think about every time I travel a lot for work. And it's something I think about every time I'm at the airport with, like, if it's not the first flight of the day, I'm delayed. And I know it. God forbid you have to wait for a mechanic. Come fix the plane because you're waiting.
Sure.
But in this great country we live in, capitalism, supply and demand. 61 years old means the demand's low, and the demand is very high, right? And the supply is very low. And the supply that we do have, they're in their 60s, so they're probably not moving as quick as a well-educated, well-motivated, young, hungry buck could be working out there. So
for sure,
it is a huge opportunity for yourself. So the other 2 paths. So is there education available for people, after the high school age?
Yeah. So our primary focus is on high school students, but we do run night school in 7 of our locations, and most of those are apprenticeship courses. So for the licensed trades in Connecticut, there's some related ed that they take through our night school. I would say a majority of the apprentices in Connecticut come through our program.
Okay. And what's the enrollment like?
How many good. In some of our schools, it's just as high as the daytime. I would say we have anywhere from 3,500 to 4,000 students at night.
Wow, 3,500 to 4,000 students. Has that been consistent over the years, or is that something that you see growing?
Growing. We have about 11,500 during the day, so we're a big district.
500 during the day. Wow. Yeah. So what's has the growth been? Because I just heard, and it's going viral now, right? That there was this Wall Street Journal article, I don't know if you saw it, and Mike Rowe was just on stage talking about it, how college enrollment is down, but education is not down, right? College enrollment is down. And I saw Alex Ramosi talk about this, that although that's down, the exact opposite is happening in, trades, construction, and apprenticeships. It's going up. It's almost 1 for 1. The people that aren't going to college are then going there. So are you seeing that trend? Do you have any pulse on what that trend's like?
Yeah, I believe the title of that article was like Gen Z is the tool belt trade, and we are seeing that.
The tool belt generation. Yeah,
that's right. So in my role here, I'm an education consultant, and so I oversee the architectural construction trades, which consists of 5 programs. So architecture, building and civil, carpentry, landscaping, and masonry. So I talk to a lot of business and industry, but I also talk to a lot of teachers and students. And through the last couple of years, the message has changed. I'm also a product of our system. So when I went through our system, many years ago, the message was, even though I'm going to a tech school, you got to go to college. If you don't go to college, you won't be successful. You won't be able to support your family. And we all knew that wasn't true. We were in the trades, but society didn't know that. Well, I think they've figured it out, because I think there's been a big shift, and I would say the last 3 years, where now, people see the trades as a viable pathway for their children.
Has there been, do you have any number or anything like what it was 5 years ago for enrollment versus maybe 3 years ago to now?
Shifting. So I would say that, and again, this is just, I'm generalizing, but I would say that if we hit a third of our students going directly into the trades in the past, that we were doing pretty good. Last year's results were a little over 40% went directly in their trades, and a little under 40% went to higher education, but trade related. Those are fantastic numbers. Those, oh yeah. So we're having a bang up year.
What would you consider to be trade related? Higher?
Well, I mean, I would say for most of our programs, there is a post-secondary pathway. So even in construction, you could go into architecture, engineering, like you said in the intro, but you could also go into construction management. Some of our students that want to become business owners will go for business. So it's something that they're going to pursue their trade, but they want to just get a little bit more education.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that. I think, one of the best mentors that I ever had in my life. I had a very unique path. I got to start doing what most people don't get to do until in their mid-20s. I started at 14 years old. I was designing ductwork and doing civils and things like that on high-rise Boston. And when I was in college, I had the privilege of working under an engineering firm, Parsons Bricker at the time. Now they're owned by WFP. And the engineer that I was under was a plumbing engineer, but he was a plumber for 20 years first. He was a better engineer than most other people because of his, like, it wasn't just lines on a drawing to him. Like when he talks about putting the Y in an 8 to like a 4-foot run and then a 45-degree elbow, and fit a clean out in like a tight space. He understood that. He knew exactly not only what it would take, but what it would take to actually install it. Right? Like you might be able to fit it in there, but it's like you can't build a ship in a glass bottle with tweezers. Right? Like you have to be able to turn the wrench in a jack or something like that too. Right?
For sure. Yeah. That experience is, priceless to be able to be applicable in the room,
So it's for the paths that are out there, there is the aviation path, and then there's a night school path for people that might not be in high school. And then there's obviously what most people know as the VOTech high school technical education path, right? How many disciplines are there? Because the previous institutions that I've had on here have been very trade specific, but I think you guys have a variety of trades. What trades do you guys cover?
We do. So yeah, and I would say that Connecticut's unique in a lot of ways with our system. But we have 31 trade programs throughout all of Connecticut. So we have, like I said, 17 schools with these programs. Each school has a different profile. So that profile is based on the industry that surrounds that school, that's in that community. So that way we're directly aligned so students can go and gain employment. So
if you're in Hartford, Connecticut, for instance, and there's a demand for electricians, then electricians. If there's a brick, or if you're next to Sikorsky or Boeing or somebody, because a lot of aviation companies in Connecticut probably have an aviation school right there, right? Yep. If you have a bunch of bricklaying going on somewhere, then you got the bricklayers over there. So you're mirroring whatever the demand of the market is.
That's exactly right. And every school will have somewhere in between 9 and 15 trades. So you mentioned Hartford, they have 15 trades, a lot of industry in Hartford, but also that school square footage can support that many trades for that many students. So then there's some schools that are a little bit smaller of a footprint, so they have 9 or 10 trades. But yeah, so they all have that unique profile for that industry.
So we talked about aviation and then mechanical, electrical, plumbing, I assume.
Yeah, so we do it by clusters first. So it's easier to talk clusters first. So obviously there's the construction and architecture cluster. There's manufacturing. Manufacturing in Connecticut is huge. There's a lot of industry here, EB and Pratt & Whitney. There's a lot of industry, manufacturing, automotive, service trades like health tech and culinary. Then we have some newer programs like Vet Tech. I'm at Vinyl in Middletown right now. There's a Vet Tech program here. There's also a criminal justice program here. So we really do run the gamut. IT, we have a lot of IT trades. So in each one of those clusters, they break them down. So since this is the construction podcast, we'll go through, there's 9 trades in the construction cluster. So there's architecture, which is pretty self-explanatory. There's building.
Funny when you said 33, my brain is always in construction. So when you said 33, I was like, holy crap. That's a lot of trades.
No, just 9 in the construction realm. So there's architecture, which students learn hand drafting, AutoCAD, and Revit, both residential and commercial. Then there's
hand drafting, AutoCAD, and Revit. What are we talking about? We're talking about making what most people not in the construction industry know as blueprints, right? So hand drafting, literally drawing it by hand, the old school way with a rock and chisel or a pencil, and then CAD would be your 2D. Two-dimensional, computer automated drawing. That's what CAD stands for. And then Revit is that, but in 3D, right? Which is where, in today's day and age, 3D modeling is the word, right? That's what everybody wants to see. So I apologize to interrupt you, Brent. I just like to, connect those dots for people because we live in this industry every day. So I always like to pick out the words that might fly over people's head.
I appreciate that. No, I appreciate that. So that's one of our programs, a new program that we instituted last year. Well, we'll go to the typical program. So we had 16 carpentry programs. We now have 15, and I'll explain why in a minute. But so in our carpentry programs, they focus their 9th and 10th grade year really on cabinetry. So they're learning how to use some pretty big machinery to mill up lumber to make finished products. And a lot of that learning too is measuring, cutting, laying out. So there's a lot of fundamental learning there. And then in 11th and 12th grade, they get into residential and commercial construction. So
which would be more like the framing
exactly,
stuff.
Framing, roofing, siding. And in a little bit, I'll explain how we teach them. But that's basically the program. But in Connecticut,
so what's interesting before you move on there. Carpentry has so many different disciplines that a lot of young people don't understand, right? And the big markets, the companies really reflect that. One carpentry company will do ceilings, like grid ceilings or architectural ceilings, right? That's all they do. Other companies will do drywall and framing. Other companies on residential, they'll do framing with, wood and truss installs and things, which would be your roof structure framing. And what would be most appealing to me and what I try to push people towards that have that not architectural feel, they're artistically inclined, and they're like real fine work and really cool, beautiful work would be that millwork, that casework that people talk about. You're molding your cabinetry, any kind of cladding or fine woodwork that you see. And that's what you were talking about initially, where you're actually in a shop. You're not necessarily going around to job sites all the time. You could be in fabrication or install. I think that's a really interesting place to go. I actually had a young man on my podcast a couple of months ago. That's what he does. That's his specialty. He owns his own business. He's making over $200,000 a year, and he's autistic. And because of his autism and how finicky he is in tune with detail and textures and alignment and things being absolutely perfect, it plays into his craft very well. And I love bringing up that story because I think it's so interesting and so cool that he was able to do that. But it's just important for people to understand that when you're talking about carpentry, there is a whole bunch of stuff that you can do. Another cool thing with carpentry that a lot of people don't realize, and it's all union work usually, is movie sets, right? Like there's a huge market all in different areas of the country to everything that you see in a movie set has to be built by somebody, and it's actually carpenters, right? So like if you want to get into the film industry, there's that route too. So I apologize for that. I just wanted to highlight some of the opportunities in carpentry.
Well, that was actually where I was going. So in carpentry, it's so wide that we realized last year that we realized probably 2 years ago, and then last year we made a move to kind of hit more aspects of carpentry, as with that current model with the cabinetry and the rough construction the way it was, you couldn't really get into horizontal construction or road work, bridge work, which a majority of that is carpentry also. So last year, in conjunction with a lot of big industry in Connecticut, we made a switch. We changed one of our carpentry programs to be named Building and Civil Construction. So this is that it still has that residential piece, but we got rid of the cabinet making piece. So 9th and 10th grade, like I said, is cabinet making. We took that out. We moved residential construction into 9th and 10th grade. 11th grade is all commercial construction. So as you were talking about, the metal stud, the drywall, the suspended ceilings, and that was really important for us to do, which I'll explain after 12th grade. So 12th grade, we're integrating civil construction. So not civil engineering, the people putting it in. So we're talking about road work. We're talking about rebar, forming, grading, and steel. And the reason we did that is for two reasons. In Connecticut, there was a $5.4 billion with a B infrastructure bill that passed 2 years ago. There's a lot of road work coming our way, a lot of infrastructure work coming our way, and we're not directly preparing kids for that work. Yes, we are, right? Measuring, cutting, square, plumb. We are. There's a lot of transferable skill, but not directly. So we needed to attack that. And then we've also partnered with the union in Connecticut, the Carpenters Union. And this year they lowered their entry age to 17, and they removed the high school diploma part of those requirements so that our students can actually join the union while they're still in school.
Wait a minute. So you're telling me that in Connecticut, the Carpenters Union has lowered the age to get in. You can get in the Carpenters Union in Connecticut at 17 years old before you even have a high school diploma, and start putting away for your retirement, your annuity, and all that, and health benefits and all those good things?
Yes. So the reason I am at Vinyl Tech right now for this is because at 12:30, I am here for a signing. Their union drywall company is signing one of our kids. So we're jumping ahead a little bit because I think we're going to talk about work-based learning in a minute. But we do have
signing one of your kids has been like when a draft pick or a kid signs up for like a football star, picks what school he's going to go to. They're picking him as young talent to take on.
That is what I'm telling you. We had our national signing day on Tuesday. So if you check out the CTEC social media, you will see a number of schools having their signing days where employers and parents were invited to come. And it's a big deal because we're a trade school and we need to highlight what these kids are doing and promote it for younger kids so they can see this too. But so that's what we're doing here today. Yep.
So I think we do a poor job in this industry at getting into what the kids need to know and what they care about, and that's the money. So on that career path for that young man who is the number one draft pick by the Carpenters Union in the great state of Connecticut, what's compensation look like? What's the path to journeyman look
so
like?
He's entering as a first-year apprentice, and through an agreement with them, when he graduates, he can take a test and knock off a year of apprenticeship too if he has a certain score on there. So the apprentice,
so he could actually be a full-fledged journeyman by the time he's 20.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Wow. That's incredible.
So a couple clarifiers here for the listeners. It's not just so Connecticut is a part of the North Atlantic Carpenters. So this is for all of New England, New York, except for the 5 boroughs, that this age has been changed. But in order to go to work in construction, you have to be 18 years old. But if you're a part of a cooperative program, which ours is labeled a cooperative program, our students can actually start construction as early as 16 years old. So with them moving this age allowed us to have these 17-year-olds out there. So this young man, I'd love to say he's the first, but I'm happier to say that he's actually the 8th. He is the 8th student now that is, a union carpenter getting those benefits and going to work while he's getting high school credit.
And what are the wages like for a first-year apprentice?
$17.90 something or other, or 79 maybe, $17.90. I don't know, $17.79 somewhere up there.
$17.18.
Yep.
So you're talking. What does that mean? That means you're talking about bringing in on straight time $36,000 a year to get an education, to be putting away for retirement, to get health benefits, to get all the things that the union people get. And then do you know what the raises are like from year to year after that?
So if he passes the exam, he'll be able to get there in 3 years. If not, he'll get there in 4 years, but he'll be making full book, which is every year of apprenticeship, they get a 10% bump. So you can kind of do the math there. He'll be making $35 an hour plus full benefits by the time he's 20, 21 years old.
So you do the math there. Here's what a lot of people don't understand is that they think that it's dead end. They think that, they're slave driving. They're not going to give you the raise. They're not going to give you what you deserve, blah, blah, blah. This is all negotiated. This is all pre-negotiated, right? This is the minimum. You can actually get more, right? But you're talking about getting 10% of 35 is what? $3,500. You're going to get a $3,500 raise the first year. Then you're at 40. The next year is going to be 4,000. Then now I'm just doing round numbers. Then you're at 44,000. Then it's going to be a $4,400 raise all the way until you get up to the journeyman, which is about $35 an hour. That's $70,000 a year, plus a package that's worth another couple $1,000s. And what's the package mean? That means that there's money going into an annuity and a retirement fund for you, and you have usually top of the line health benefits. The unions do a really good job at taking care of the guys and girls. That's an incredible opportunity for somebody to be in. And what I just also realized is that if you start at 17, I bet you could retire like full on retirement in your mid 50s. Like, right. No problem.
But also, so our big thing with these kids, and when we're talking to industry, because this is new to industry, taking on somebody so
right.
young, but what we're talking about is a student who is moldable, ready to be molded to your business. So a lot of these students, it's an investment for the employer, but they're going to be running work in 5-6 years. They're going to be so vested in that company that took a chance on them. They're going to know the company in and out, and they're going to be running work. So not only is it going to be early retirement, but it's also going to be the fast track to leadership positions if that's what they want.
So what Brent just said is you could be 22, 23 years old, running your own crew, running your own job site. Steps after that typically could be a road super, where you're in charge of multiple crews. You could get further education or advancement within the company and become a project manager. You could run projects, from the office. The opportunities are endless. Two perspectives I'd like to get, and you may or may not know, whether it's that young man or the eight prior. Are you in tune with their families at all? Do you talk to their parents?
At some of these signing days, I do. Yep.
What's the feedback like? Are they gleaming with pride? Are they reluctant? Do they not want to let their kids go into the abyss, the dark abyss that everyone thinks construction is?
So I think there's a lot of unknown. I think there's a lot of unknown, because if you think about, high school students, these aren't conversations that you're normally having with a high school student. So I think that's part of it. I think a lot of these jobs are also, bigger than the parents were expecting, So when they came in, maybe they thought they were going to be working on homes or something like that. Now they're with 300 other construction workers on a big site. So I think that there's definitely some learning that needed to be done. But so we did this as a cohort. So we had 27 students come down to interview for this. 23 of them, the union deemed acceptable, meaning that once an employer wants them, they're in, which is incredible numbers, which is really, really speaks to the teaching staff here at CTEX, that they've prepared these students so well that, because those are pretty great numbers.
Yeah.
But I talked to the parents there, and once they got informed of like what this progression can look like and what the packages look like, pretty good responses, and pretty good responses in Connecticut too. We've been getting a lot of calls. The students have been getting publicity. They've been on the news. Like I said, we're doing the signing day today. So there's been a lot of really cool things happening. We've been doing some women in construction things. One of the young ladies that got hired by a pretty large company here I don't want to name drop, so a pretty large company here in Connecticut, they're promoting women in construction. So it's not just, opening up opportunities in one way. We're trying to leverage this to open it in many ways, right? And open these doors for students. And we're really highlighting carpentry right now, but this is what we do we have roughly 1,000 graduates a year in construction trades, and any one of them that wants to go to work is going to go to work, So
I want to talk about the other trades, but what's the perspective like from what feedback have you had from contractors? I talk to contractors all over the place, right? I work for a national GC. We're offline. I can tell you some stuff that I've recently done in Connecticut and the company that I work with there. I'm up there frequently. We just did a $200 million job up there. Pretty famous headquarters, I'm sure you've heard of. Everybody has a tough time finding talent, especially young talent and talent that's never even mind top talent, but just decent talent. Right? Like competent people that they can rely on that are going to show up and be able to teach, maybe not even be an all-star, but just be good. What's the feedback been like from the contractors, and how do they get in touch with you guys to find you, to tap into the pool?
So two very good questions. The responses have been fantastic. So I talked about making that change from carpentry to building and civil. In order to do that, I need board approval, right? So I write a proposal which explains the two programs, what the switch is. I put in wages in there. But industry support is also needed. We can't just do things that we think are cool, right? They have to align to industry. Right. So I reached out to industry. Within 3 days, I think I had 70 something letters of support, which is fantastic. It was huge. And then on the flip end, now that we have students that are kind of ready to go to work, those same employers are still at the table. So, the feedback has been great. The feedback has been really good. Now, getting a hold of us, they can go to our website, cttech.org. And there's
say that one more time, cttech.org. CT Tech.
.org. Yep. And there's a lot of information there, and we have a lot of really cool things. So we didn't talk about really how our students learn. So I guess I'll start there first, because then this is a reason why people would want to go to that website. But so sure. we teach our students, they're in school 182 days a year. 91 of those days, full days, are in academics. 91 of those days are in trade. And it's about 10-day cycles. So they'll be in trade for 10 straight days, then they'll be in academics for 10 straight days, so on and so forth throughout the year. In 9th and 10th grade, like I said, they're in a state-of-the-art shop that has all of the equipment that they need to learn on to be successful in the field. And then in 11th and 12th, we do something that we call production. So production is where we actually do work for customers. So every one of our construction trades, all 140 construction trade teachers, have their CDL, and each school has a fleet of buses. So every day they're loading up on a bus. I'm watching one right now. I'm not kidding you. Go past. That every day they go out and they do live work. So we have Vinyl right now, the school I'm in, just finished a 3-car garage that has a loft on top of it. We have a couple other schools. We had one just build a house, decks, additions. But then electrical is going out doing services, rewires or wiring of new houses, HVAC and plumbing. They're putting in boilers, they're putting in AC units. So these kids are getting real world experience with their teachers. So the customer or the homeowner pays a fraction of the cost they would pay a contractor, because it is a learning environment. But now those kids are learning that firsthand. This is one of the best things that we do. This is why our kids can take a test and get a year of apprenticeship. Why employers want them, because they actually have this real world experience.
Well, listen, I went to Wentworth, right? You've heard of Wentworth up in Boston. And the reason that those kids do so well against MIT and Northeastern and Harvard is the forced co-op program, right? It's a forced experience. You're forced to get experience. So your high school kids have, if they're spending half the year hands-on, actually learning in the field or in a shop, they're graduating with 2 full years of experience, which is why they're able to test out or to experience out of the required, time spent in an apprenticeship, right? And why they qualify early.
And all of our licensed trades,
go ahead.
All of our licensed trades, when they graduate, they have their 720 related hours, and they have 1,500 OJT on the job training hours towards their apprenticeship. And then if they do this next thing I'm about to talk about, they even get more hours.
So before you go into that, is there whether it's for personal injury or the installation itself, is there a special insurance policy that's required for contractors or owners?
So we are a state agency, and we contract with the homeowner. So it does fall on the homeowner's insurance, their liability insurance.
Okay. No special coverage or anything. No, it's all part of it.
Yep.
So
correct.
Just as a person who's been on both sides, and I've got hundreds of subcontractors all over the place. I talk about insurance more than I care about, or that I would care to talk about. I know it's something that's across a lot of people's minds. So the answer is no special insurance policy. It's covered, just the way everybody else does. So you were talking about licensure, and the next good thing.
Yeah. So the next good thing that we do is we have a program called work-based learning. So our students, and I think a lot of high schools will have this. So our students are able to go to work instead of coming to school. So, and I kind of alluded to this with the carpenters, right? So they're hiring these kids. Well, that's not for nights and weekends. They're going there on their trade cycle instead of coming to school. So they're earning school credit and getting paid. And so a junior can go out as early as 16 years old through that legislation that I talked about in Connecticut. And then they can do in their first semester, they can do 14 hours of school release. So during the week, they can miss 14 hours of school to go to work. Then they can work as much in nights, weekends, and vacations. In their second semester, they can go out for 28 hours because it aligns to their curriculum. Seniors in their first semester can go out 21 school release hours. And in their second semester, it's unlimited. And we currently have just south of 1,100 students taking advantage of this program throughout all of our programs throughout the state. Yeah. So that's a lot. That's tremendous. There's just about 1,100 kids that are making money and learning on the job, and it's really good. And like I said, with the licensed trades, every hour of because they're signed up as pre-apprentices, every hour adds on to that 1,500.
And what are the licensed trades?
8,000 hours. Oh, the licensed trades, the electrical, HVAC, plumbing, and then we actually have a licensure or an apprenticeship for precision machining and hairdressing too. So, yeah.
So what is, So with mechanical, electrical, plumbing, those are very popular ones, very popular trades that people talk about, opportunities to go into because, the line that I don't think that people draw is that it's because those are licensed trade, their infrastructure, there's a lot of service work, a lot of opportunity there. They would be considered the higher skilled trades. And what does all that mean? That means that they pay well, right? Mm-hmm. So are there opportunities to get into either unions or apprenticeship programs early, like the carpenters?
No. So the only union in Connecticut that made that move to 17 was the carpenters, but we do have strong affiliations with those unions. They a lot of times will do our professional development for our teachers. They host something called Skills USA, which is a statewide competition, and then that turns into a nationwide competition. It's actually, the nationwide is in June in Georgia. So we have a number of students going down there to compete, but the union will sponsor those by opening up their halls to have all the students there. Their union teachers are the ones proctoring it. So we do have good relationships with them. And then once students do turn 18 and meet their requirements, many of them enter those unions.
And what's the entry level? Do you happen to have the numbers off the top of your head for HVAC, plumbing, and electrical? No.
Fortunately, I don't know.
Which is fine. Well, here's what I can tell you. Carpenters make good money. Mechanical, electrical, and plumbing make better money. They pay, those are higher paying jobs. They just are, right? Sure. I'm not trying to deter anybody one way or the other. I think there's a lot of benefits and a lot of passion that can drive somebody, towards carpentry. But if that was a good living and that made your eyebrow raise, I can guarantee you that mechanical and electrical and plumbing are higher. As far as plumbers go, plumber I talk to all over the country has a tough time finding plumbers. Do you see kids being hesitant to get into plumbing?
No. And I'll tell you why. When students enter our schools, they do something called exploratory. So every student in their 9th grade year will spend 2 days in every single shop within that school. And then they pick 3 shops to go back to for 4 days to kind of dig in a little bit deeper. Because, they're 14, 15, 16. Like we're asking them to make a pretty big decision at such a young age. So we really want this to be a robust experience for them so they can make that decision. And our teachers are fantastic. I told you that we have 140 construction trade teachers. They do a really good job of explaining it, not only to the students, but also to the parents. So they're making it educated. So a lot of you're going to plunge toilets your whole life, or you're going to have a broken back by the time you're 35. We alleviate a lot of those stereotypes, even with the unions. You're going to be laid off and sit on the bench all the time. We alleviate a lot of that because we have the partnerships to prove that that's wrong. We also have the data from our students that come back. We have so many legacy students. So I graduated from one of our schools in 2001. And not only did I have a successful career in the field, but I came back and taught for 8 years. And now I oversee, a number of our programs. So that's common. The person who oversees the licensed trades that I don't oversee, also a grad. We have a lot of people coming back to hire students that are grads. So there's a lot of legacy too. So it's very easy to say that you can be successful and kind of prove it to parents to alleviate some of that.
Listen, we're always going to need power, right? Electricians are always going to have work. HVAC, I live in Florida. You live in New England, you're always going to need AC and heat. No matter what happens in the economy, people need it, right? And above all else, I don't think that people understand how in dire need we are of plumbers. It is by far and away the most trade with the biggest shortage. People just aren't coming in. It's the highest paid trade in most markets that I work in, and it's only getting higher and higher and higher. And it's not just about, toilets and things like that. Right? There's gas, there's steam, there's pharmaceutical plants and labs and medical gas and all these like really cool things that truly save people's lives. People don't understand. Plumbers save more lives in America than doctors do. People don't understand that. Doctors couldn't do their job if they didn't have a plumber. You know what kills 2,500 kids a day in Africa? Diarrhea from drinking bad water. So literally, plumbers save more lives than doctors in America. And if I were to go back to 18 years old or 14 years old, and when I was considering school, I would go into plumbing simply because if you're just looking at a chart of supply and demand, that's the one. If you want to start your own business, or if you just want to make like a super good wage working for somebody else so you don't have the headache of running a business, plumbing's the way to go. Hands down above every other trade. So you take that clip and you can give it to your freshmen and sophomores.
we'll plug it in there, yeah.
There you get it. So anyway, if step by step, where do people go? So the earliest that people should look at you guys is what?
Do you mean employers?
As an educational option. When should a student or a parent be looking at you and saying, I need to vet you as an option for the next step?
Oh, if you ask me, I think this should be, part of the social studies curriculum for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. They should understand the industry that's in their state. But you can apply to our schools in your 8th grade year. So a lot of times we're doing tours and little presentations for 7th and 8th graders so that they understand, number one, what the trades are, and number two, what their career with us would look like for their high school.
And if you're in high school and you said, shit, I'm in the wrong high school, I should have went over there. Can they transfer? What's that look like?
So they can transfer up until October of the sophomore year because we don't have fluctuating diplomas. So if you have a carpenter diploma, you have a certain number of hours in training within that cluster. So yeah, it does lock off at October of their sophomore year.
And if you're above 18, or maybe you're late in high school and you're past that October 1st date of your sophomore year, where would they go? What would be the right opportunity to look at it and say, hey, I'm going to go to these guys for, night school or whatever it is?
Yeah. So if they're in one of those apprenticeship trades, then yeah, they could come. Like I said, we have 7 strategically placed all around the state. So that way, there's one near them where they can kind of do some of those apprenticeship courses. So they would have to kind of pick and get signed up as a apprentice in one of those fields. But then they could take.
So do they have to already be in a field, or could they be in? I don't know. IT would have been a bad one because you already said that you had an IT program. But I mean, could they be jobless at 22 years old and seek an opportunity through you guys?
I mean, to get kind of, but you kind of need the job too, because we're only going to give them their related hours for apprenticeship. They really need those on the job training hours also. So it's kind of hand in hand. So getting sponsored.
So what I would say. Okay, so what I would say, you already went where I was going. And this is how my father used to get a lot of people in the industry. And that's why I got an opportunity with a mechanical shop up in Boston before, when I was in high school, was you get a shop to sponsor you, right? So what does that look like? Break out your old school phone book, break out the Google machine, find out what contractors are in the area. Hey, I got no experience. I'm interested to the point that I will come in, I will drive a van, I will pick up a broom, I will do whatever labor you want me to do. And I want to go to this school to learn the trade, on my time so that I can become, a full-fledged journeyman, tech, mechanic, or whatever it may be for you. So sponsorship is the word. If you don't have experience, this is the good way to do it. Find your local HVAC guy, find your local electrician, find your local carpenter. They need help. It is not all of the manpower and all of the tasks that everybody do on jobs. You don't need a full license to do, right? There are tasks on jobs that you are losing money by paying a full-fledged journeyman electrician their huge hourly wage to do, right? So, and maybe that's just going to the supply house. Maybe it's doing paperwork. Maybe it's doing whatever you need to do that'll supplement your education by just being around people and learning the jargon, right? The lingo every day. There's tremendous value in that. And if you need help with that, you can always DM me. You can always message me through my website or send me an email. I'm here to help people, vet those opportunities. I think it's a very important path that a lot of people don't realize is there for them. And a lot of union shops will do that too. They can only have you do certain jobs, right? Because they're a union and they have to give certain people union wages, but sometimes you can drive a van for them and not be in the union yet, but that's a good stepping stone for you to get in there. Or you can be a helper of some kind. Some different unions in different markets have a helper position for that, right? Not all markets, but like New York City they have that for electricians specifically. So Brent, I appreciate you for coming on. Do you have anything else that you'd love to touch or hit before we go?
Yeah, I would like to do a plug for the room I'm in right now. So we do work with minors. So using like a LinkedIn or Handshake or any of that was very difficult for us. So keeping constant communication or tagging employers and getting them in touch with students has always been kind of an issue. And it's been really, it had to be a human thing. It had to be a teacher or someone like me or the principal. Like it had to be a human thing. And then our director of communications, Carrie Markey, took on this initiative that we're calling the CTEX Career Center. And it basically is a LinkedIn, but it's a closed network. So that way we can use it with minors. So if you do go to that cttech.org website, you could sign up for our Career Center. And then those employers in this area looking for students would have access to those students and our staff. So they would be able to create a profile, kind of identify the trades that they're interested in, the schools they're interested in partnering with, and then they can right away communicate with teachers and students. So a lot of times contractors, It's a game changer. It's actually quoted on somebody else's podcast, but it is a game changer. And it's now, a lot of employers want bodies, right? They want their workforce, but they also want to give back. And we have opportunities for that. They can come in, they can guest speak. We can do field trips out to their job sites so that they can educate kids. They can donate towards programs. And then there's also that, getting a kid for WBL or getting a graduate for their workforce. So it's really awesome. It's a really good way to kind of promote that communication. It takes a little bit of the human element out of there and just makes it a lot more in sync. So yeah, if you go to our website, you can sign up for a profile to be an employer on there and partner with us. Even if you're not hiring, like I said, you can come in for guest speaking, or one thing we didn't talk about is how we stay relevant. We have program advisory committees for every one of our trades. That's where industry comes in. They learn about the trade and kind of give their input, what they notice with trends, what they notice, whether it's soft skills or content skills. They can kind of talk about that, and we can shape our program to meet those needs.
So I've been speaking at high schools for the last 12 years. One of the most common questions that I get from students is how they get in contact with contractors that might be interested in hiring them, and also how to prep for it, and how to be prepared to talk and present themselves and all these things. So if you're wondering that, hey, I'm in high school, how do I present myself to a contractor? And you're a contractor that's like, well, I don't want to go talk to kids, unsanctioned or unsupervised. That's an amazing conduit. So what is that website again? One more time for everybody.
So it's ctech.org. So CECH.org.
So go to ctech.org. Can they follow you guys on social media?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're on Facebook. We're on Instagram, LinkedIn.
What's the handle?
We'll do that. We'll do that one more time.
Yeah.
Hang on.
So can they
let
follow
me
you
write
on
it down.
social media?
Oh,
High
okay.
school. CT Tech High School.
All right, go ahead.
So can they follow you on social media? What's the handle?
Absolutely. So on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, it's CTech, just like I said before. So CTECHHS, and they can follow us there. And I can send you the link too if you want to put it in the bio.
Yeah, send me the link. I'll put it in the bio. With that, Brett, I really appreciate you coming on. This is such important knowledge and such an important path that people need laid out for them. More clearly, not enough people know about this. So I'm sure it's going to find the right people and anybody that needs it in the Connecticut area. And I'm going to try to find more schools like this across the country. If you know anybody, send them my way if there's any kind of network you're tapped into. But this is the Construction Mentor Podcast. Again, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. You can follow me on TikTok and Instagram at The Construction Mentor. And I'll see everybody next time. Thank you.